Ahsoka is now streaming fully on Disney Plus, starring Rosario Dawson as the lead character, Ahsoka Tano, from the beloved series Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Now, we're following Ahsoka in this post-Empire galaxy. There's a lot wrong here. The rebels, they don't really know how to run a galaxy, and a lot of people are misplaced, mismanaged. So in this attempt to bring back Thrawn, this old bad guy who is now banished in a galaxy far, far away from the galaxy that we know in Star Wars, they're attempting to bring him back so that he can start a new war to essentially claim back what was once theirs. And now it's up to Ahsoka and her rebel friends to stop this madness from ever spreading. Now, can they do it? Well, you're watching this review, so you probably already know. Ahsoka was by no means my favorite Star Wars. The writing was sloppy, unlike Andor, which had a pretty concise script and some great acting, some great direction. Ahsoka, it lacked a lot of that. It had some great moments here and there, which we will dive into. But before we jump into anything hectic here, I just want to let you all know that I am not the biggest Star Wars fan. I grew up loving it, yes. However, I have kind of grown out of it. We're talking about Star Wars. There's gonna be some debate going on. Just remember to please keep it civil and respectful of others, including myself. With that being said, let's jump into Ahsoka Season 1. This was not exactly what I was expecting from the show, especially from a lover of the Clone Wars. Like I mentioned in my previous reviews, I watched Clone Wars, I never watched Rebels, and this really does feel like a Rebels 2.0, like a reboot of that. I ended up watching about halfway through Season 1 of Rebels. I just couldn't get my hooks into the show with the time I have and all these other movies coming out, and all these other TV shows like Gen V coming out, and so much more. I really need to pay attention to those. So unfortunately, just did not have the time for Rebels, although I do believe that it could set up for an even greater story and could potentially make even this show better. Now, if you guys have seen Rebels, let me know, what did you guys think about Ahsoka? And for those who haven't seen Rebels, do you agree with those who have seen Rebels or no? Now, when we talk about everything that we see on screen, there is a lot going on, but also not a lot going on. And one of my biggest issues with the show is that of Ahsoka herself as a character. I thought that Ahsoka was pretty cool. She was a lot more toned down than her Clone Wars counterpart, but I think that's also okay in of itself because, yeah, she's young, she's sassy, she has a lot of learning to do, whereas this Ahsoka, she should have been a little bit more completed, a little bit more seasoned, and yeah, that definitely does show. She knows when to move, she knows when to act, and I appreciated that about this Ahsoka. However, she was also very boring and dry, and I don't believe a lot of that has to do with Rosario Dawson at all, because everything that Rosario Dawson has accomplished in her acting portfolio has just been mind-blowing. It's been phenomenal. Even in Disney's The Haunted Mansion, she did a pretty good job despite being in a very minor role. A majority of Ahsoka's character falls on more so the writers and maybe even the director more so than the writers. Blocking is when you move or position a character to match the frame or to match another character. It's just basically set decor with the actual actors and placing them where you need them to be. But in this TV show, Ahsoka's blocking is just this. This show should have been called Rebels Live Action or Rebels 2.0. Disney just wanted to use their marketing tactics to get the Clone Wars fans back in, to get a majority of Star Wars fans back in, and to get some people more intrigued about this alien story more so than a human story. And it's unfortunate because a lot of this does end up being taken over by Sabine, who I know is not human, but they are a human, actor. There's not the makeup or the effects or anything like that. I thought she was intriguing at first, but as the show continues, Sabine just proves time and time again that she's unreliable and just not really that great of a character. I love gray characters. I love when a character fails, messes up a lot, but then at the very end kind of pulls it together and completes their character arc. The entirety of this show, the entirety of the season, is all about Sabine and Ahsoka finding their best bud Ezra, and do they do that? Well, yes, Ezra's the only one to make it back to their normal galaxy, where Ahsoka and Sabine are stranded, which I do believe sets up for a season 2. I believe there's a season 2. One of my favorite characters, which was Balin Skrull, played by Ray Stevenson, he unfortunately passed away. And it's very tragic, not only in the sense that, this is a human life lost, but also this is the most intriguing character in the entirety of Ahsoka. He brought so much to the role and so much mystery and depth. And please, Disney, do not bring Ray Stevenson back to life using CGI. I think I speak for a vast majority of us that no, we don't want that. Something else that the show does tend to perform a lot is to set up a lot of story arcs that just don't really matter, such as Jason. We understand who his father is, who his mom is, but what is the significance of the character outside of the scene of them finding Ahsoka? There could have been so many more ways to go about that without fleshing out a brand new character and then also not having his character lead to anything else. None of the characters, none of the plots, nothing has a payoff. There's a beginning, a middle, but there's no end. Of course, they can end on a cliffhanger. That's what makes a lot of these shows so exciting. It's what makes Game of Thrones what Game of Thrones is. All the amazing, weird cliffhangers that you just don't see coming. However, despite that, there does need to be some sort of completion within the season to make it its own almost standalone thing. I'd say most TV shows, if not all TV shows, including that of Game of Thrones, they do, in fact, tackle this situation where they present a beginning, middle, and end in each and every season, despite the fact that there is definitely more to be continued. Whereas Ahsoka, it doesn't do that. It's just like, yes, there's more to be continued, but there was never any satisfaction. It just kind of goes and goes and goes, and okay, there's gonna be more at some point, and that's it. Whereas other shows, it's like, and from beginning, middle, end, from beginning, middle, end, it's like, it's a perpetual loop. It's just unsatisfying. It's boring, it's bland. I want to see more, I want to feel more impact with the characters, and it just was not a dynamic show. Now let's jump into the big elephant that is Anakin Skywalker. He was featured prominently in this series, and I think that they went about it in a pretty interesting way, not one that I expected, and that's totally fine. I do wish we got to see more Anakin Force Ghost. We did see that little snippet of him at the end, and I loved that. I wish that we could see current Anakin, but we saw mostly just past Anakin, which again was totally fine. I loved that. I believe it was episode 5 or 6 where we saw Ahsoka as a child in the Clone Wars with Anakin, and that whole scene, the whole sequence, it was beautiful. But in terms of plot, in terms of what Ahsoka was meant to discover as a character, I just couldn't get on board, because her whole character in that episode was meant to relearn not only how to fight, but also how to live. But throughout the first, I don't know, episodes 1 through 4 or 1 through 5, whatever it is, she doesn't express any disinterest in fighting. She actually does quite a bit of fighting. She seems even more skilled than what she used to be. So this whole counter argument of her saying, oh yeah, I've degraded as a character and I need to make a comeback, that's never established. So the issues that are presented to us in that episode feel more so just at a face value rather than something that has depth and something that I can reach out and grab. It's not something that is impactful on audiences. And I believe that is the overall downfall of Ahsoka, is that it just doesn't have that precise ending for any of the characters whatsoever, other than to say, yes, we're gonna milk this show even more in the future, don't worry. But if there's no end, if there's no impacts, why are we, the audience, supposed to care, other than the title itself, Star Wars? But again, with Anakin, I thought those scenes were phenomenal. They were great. Again, beautiful. I thought the cinematography, the visual effects, everything, it was gorgeous. The transitions between him and Darth Vader and the sound design, the Foley, everything, it just hit. That was the only impact there was. The impact of nostalgia. They're gonna drip feed you, and it's gonna be a painful process. And that's the best way I can explain this show, is that it was a painful process for me. These are all characters I find very endearing, even the ones I don't know from Rebels. I love Ahsoka. I love Anakin. I want to see more of this droid that Ahsoka's with. I thought he was really funny. It seems that Disney is nailing a lot of the droids in their movies and TV shows, especially BD from the video games. So if we could have a whole show about droids, I feel like I could connect with them more as characters than these actual living creature characters, the aliens, the humans. I feel like I'm more connected to the droids, and they're quite literal robots. So if that doesn't say anything, I don't know what else would. Okay, now we're gonna take a quick pause on this review to look at some comments. Now, we only have one comment on our very latest video for the Saw X review. We did get more, but I had to delete them because they, again, were hateful and people just couldn't respect my opinion on this movie. Saw just wasn't for me. Rebel8185 Rebel, Star Wars, we're talking about Star Wars Rebels, says, "You are so alone, dude." Well, if you guys don't know this, I don't like to be an echo chamber. If there are some people who just don't like a movie, that's fine. I think that's a-okay. I know plenty of people that don't like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but you don't see me attacking them or calling them alone or being rude. This was the nicest comment on my last video, so I decided to keep it and respond to it. So guys, please leave comments down below. I want to discuss movies with you. I want to be able to feature our interactions on these videos and hang out and just realistically talk movies. Anyways, that's gonna go ahead and do it for the comments because we only had the one. If you guys wanna be featured in the next video, be sure to leave a comment down below. Anyways, we've been talking about Ahsoka for a minute now. What do you guys think about it? Overall, I wasn't totally impressed, and this is a show that I just cannot recommend to anybody. Maybe a major Star Wars fans, in fact, more specifically, a fan of Star Wars Rebels. I would recommend this show to them. However, your general audience, I don't think this is for them. Also, if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like. It does help out with the YouTube algorithm. And also, if you guys want to watch some more content, click somewhere on the screen. The algorithm also tends to love that if you watch the videos all the way through. It does help out the channel grow. It does help me, and I really do appreciate it. But with that being said, my name is Austin, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.